Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, how are you? Welcome to TEFL methodology. TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. Okay, so today is our first meeting, and in our first meeting, we're going to discuss a history of language teaching. But before we discuss this topic, let me explain you first the course overview of TEFL methodology. The course overview. Well, basically, this course discusses the approaches and methods in language teaching, second language acquisition theories, the principles of language teaching and learning, teaching context, and classroom management. It also allows you to learn how to prepare and plan lessons for teaching and describe learner differences, what skills are necessary for effective teaching, and the classes will be conducted through presentations, discussions, quizzes, demo lessons, and assignments. My expectations in this course are, first, you're able to explain approaches and methods in language teaching, second language acquisition theories, the principles of language teaching and learning, teaching context, and classroom management. Prepare and lessons for teaching, able to apply the appropriate method to teach language skills and components, and able to describe learner differences and explain what skills are necessary for effective teaching. This course has 14 sessions, which consists of number 1, which is our first meeting, a history of language teaching, current communicative approaches in language teaching in meeting 2, and then second language acquisition theories in meeting 3, learners and teachers meeting 4, the principles of language teaching and learning meeting 5, teaching context meeting 6, classroom management meeting 7, planning lessons meeting 8, teaching the language system meeting 9, teaching speaking meeting 10, teaching writing meeting 11, teaching listening meeting 12, teaching reading meeting 13, and teaching and learning in the 21st century in the last meeting. Now let's go to our first topic, a history of language teaching. Okay, the learning outcome of this topic is that you guys are expected to be able to comprehend and summarize the history of language teaching. Okay, let's skip this. Now, let's define the terms approach, method, and techniques. Approach. It is a set of assumptions dealing with the nature of language learning and teaching. Method is an overall plan for systematic presentations of language based upon a selected approach, while techniques are the activities manifested in the classroom that were consistent with a method that you choose, and also it has to be in harmony with an approach as well. In conclusion, we all know that teachers, one of the teachers' role is to help students learn. They have to help students learn. In helping students learn, and teachers need a method as an overall plan. Without a method, teaching will not be effective. That's why we need to plan our teaching. We need a method that will, direct and guide our teaching. The 3 metaphor based on Montemore, the root is the approach, and we have the methods, and then we have the classroom activities, the leaves. The method is the trunk, right? Now, from this picture, we all know that the foundations is the approach. It is your assumptions, and then the method, the overall plans, and then the classroom activities, which are the dominant part from these pictures. Because when people see a tree, they will see the leaves, which are the dominant part in the tree. So students will see your classroom activities, in the classroom and teaching. So your classroom activities must be good. It has to be well planned with the method that you have chosen, and also your assumptions of language, choosing the right approach. According to Anthony, approach, method, and techniques are three different things. Yeah, approach is the theory of language, and method is an overall plan, and techniques is the actual implementation. Well, according to Richards and Rogers, the method is the umbrella, which consists of approach, designs, and procedure. Okay, so approach is the theory of language, and designs consists of objectives, syllabus type, activity types, learner roles, teachers roles, and roles of materials, and procedure also consists of techniques, practices, and behaviors. So these are the definitions of method, approach, and techniques. Now let's study the history of English language teaching. Okay. Well, before English became dominant, it was Latin, yeah, 15 years ago, which was the dominant language of education, commerce, religion, and government. However, yeah, in the 16th century, French, Italian, and English gained in importance as a result of political changes. So the dominant language was not Latin anymore. Okay, because the status of Latin diminished from that of a living language. Yeah. Uh, Occasional subject in the school curriculum, the study of Latin took on a different functions. So when students studied Latin, yeah, they basically studied classical Latin, okay, and analyzed grammar, analyzed rhetoric, for example, which became the model of foreign language study from the 17th to 19th centuries. So when English became the dominant language, so the English language teaching still followed how teachers still followed Latin language learning. That's why, yeah, we have. That's why the first method that we have is that grammar translation method, because in that method, the English language teaching still followed how learners learned Latin. In brief, yeah, here's the history of English language teaching, starting from 16th century, where when Latin was the dominant language, and then English got the popularity. Yeah, from 1940 to 1840 to 1940, grammar translation method became dominant, right? English language teaching, because uh, it still followed, yeah, the Latin language teaching. Okay, but then the teaching methods developed from time to time. Yeah, in the mid 1800s, Guin and the series method appeared, and then the reform movement led by the Henry Sweet, yeah, Wilhelm and Paul Passy, developing for language teaching using naturalistic principle, because they believe that learning a language was not only by learning its grammar, but more on, you know, communicative function, yeah, stuff like that. So that's why we have direct method. After direct method, we do have audiolingual method, and then communicative language teaching, the silent way, community language learning, Suggestopedia, TBL, content-based instruction, multiple intelligent method, and etc. etc. There will be more and more and more English language methods here, which will always come in English language teaching. First, I'm going to teach you briefly about this method. For further information, you can read the module. Grammar translation method. Yeah, this is also called as the classical method because it was first used in the teaching of the classical English languages. Few features or characteristics of grammar method is that the goal for a language is to learn a language in order to read its literature. Reading and writing are the major focus. Vocabulary selection is based on solely on the reading of text. The sentence is the basic unit of teaching and language practice. Accuracy is emphasized. Grammar is taught deductively, and students' native language is the medium of instructions. If you read from these principal characteristics, the grammar translation method does not focus on communications, on how students learn to communicate, and it focuses on more grammar, translations, right? Accuracy, yeah, not fluency. Therefore, we have another method, which is direct method, which try to improve the grammar translation method. Yeah, so the principles here for the features for the direct methods are also different. Yeah, because as we have read from the previous slide that the grammar translation method wasn't very effective in preparing students to use the target language communicatively, only focusing on accuracy, yeah, structures. That's why direct method appeared, yeah. And if you read from the principles, yeah, it's so different. Like the classroom instruction was in the target language, no native language, only everyday vocab, yeah, and sentences were taught, oral communication skills were built up, where in the grammar translation method, it was not really emphasized, and grammar was taught inductively, yeah, concrete vocab, both speech and listening comprehension were taught, and correct pronunciation and grammar were emphasized. The drawbacks of this is that, well, it required teachers who were native speakers or who had native like fluency in a foreign language. But then it's not easy to find native speakers or native like people. And then we also have audiolingual method. Okay, well, direct method was good, but it's not able to be applied in many countries, right? And then uh, in some countries, like in the US, yeah, they were not able to find native teachers. Yeah, so that's why US educational institution here become firmly convinced that a reading approach to foreign languages was more useful, given the perceived linguistic isolation of the US at the time. So what happened is that here, yeah, uh, some European high school and university students did not have to travel far to find opportunities to put the oral skills of another language to practical use. And the direct method, especially in the UK, British people would be very easy to find native teachers. But then from people who live far from the UK, let's say, from where the native teachers live, would be difficult, right? Now, compared to direct method, the audiolingual method, yep, which is also called as the army method, are as follows. Lessons begin with dialogues. Mimicry and memorizations here are used based on assumptions that language learning is habit formation. Grammatical structures are sequenced, skills are sequenced, accurate pronunciation is stressed from the beginning, vocabulary is severally controlled, a great effort is made to prevent learner errors, language is often manipulated without regard to meaning or context, the teacher must be proficient only in the structures, vocabulary, and other aspects of the language. Well, the main feature of this is that mimicry and memorizations, yeah, habit formation. So based on this teaching method, memorization is so important. It's a way of learning English. Yeah, and also this method believes that students should not make mistakes or make errors. Yeah, because they have to prevent errors. But then again, in learning a language, errors are normal. Making mistakes is okay, and that's why. And also, yeah, memorization is not a natural way of learning a language. That's why this method is also not perfect. It does have some weaknesses. We do have community language learning. Yeah, community language learning is different. Yeah, because in this model, in this method, the teacher's presence was not perceived as a threat. So teachers helps the student in the classroom. They act more like a counselor, which helps students. Okay, but then in this method, uh, it does have some drawbacks. Like for example, students will be heavily dependent on teachers. Yeah, and sometimes the teacher's role as a counselor become too non-directive. Yeah, the students often needed directions, so they will ask teachers all the time. sportive but assertive direction from the counselor could strengthen the method. But then the problem is that it's reliance on an inductive strategy of learning. So the students may heavily rely on teachers and they don't learn by themselves. Suggestopedia, yeah, derived from Bulgarian psychologist Georgy Lozanov in 1979, which believes that people or students are capable of learning much more than they give themselves credit for. So students are supposed to be in a good condition to relax when they want to study. So that's why, according to Suggestopedia, we need something that can make students relax. For example, music. Yeah, music. Playing music may help students relax and focus on their learning. However, Suggestopedia does have some drawbacks, like teachers, teachers must face where music and comfortable chairs are not available. Not all classes have, devices which can provide music, and also maybe the chairs are not comfortable. While in this method, chairs are suggested to be movable, yeah, to create such relaxed situations. The silence way. The silence way does not mean that students must be silent, but teachers must be, and let students be more active than the teacher. Okay, this sounds interesting, right? But then in the implementation in practice, it's not easy. Yeah, because why? Because the silent way was too harsh. Teacher was too distant to encourage the communicative atmosphere, and students often need more guidance and overt correction than the silent way permitted. It's good that the teachers allow students to be independent, yeah, but then they do still need some directions. But then in the silent way, teachers must be, students must be more active, and students and teachers like decrease their role, yeah, as a teacher. TPR, which stands for total physical response, which means that students should give physical responsive instead of verbal responsive. This is so good to teach kids, yeah, because kids love kinesthetic activities like moving, yeah. So when teaching kids, you may use TPR. Yeah, it will make your students more interested in the classroom. Like you can say, stand up, sit down, open the door, yeah, say this one, run to the la la la. So you can create and be creative with TPR. Okay. But the drawbacks that, it's only effective when students are in the beginning levels, but then when their levels advances, for example, so it lost its distinctive as a learner advance in their competence. Yeah. A natural approach, which highlights the terms of comprehensible input. According to this approach, comprehensible input is so important. There is the spoken language that is understandable to the learner or just a little beyond the learner's level. Learners need not say anything during the period until they feel ready to do so. And then teacher in this approach was the source of the learner's input and the creator of an interesting, stimulating variety of classroom activities, yeah, such as comments, games, skits, and small group work. Okay, so learners move through what Krashen and Terrell defines three stages: pre-production stage, the early production stage, and the last stage. Well, some controversial aspect of the natural approach were its advocacy of a silent period, the delay of oral production until speech emerges as shortcomings, and then considering students whose speech never emerges, and with all students at different timetable for this so-called emergence, and how does the teacher manage the classroom efficiently? The concept of comprehensible input is also very difficult to pin down. Yeah. What can I say is that the responsibility as a teacher is to choose the best what others have experimented with and adapt those insights to your own situations, contextualize. Those insights and intuition can become a part of your own principle approach to language learning. Okay. There are two questions that you may discuss. What is the best method and how do teachers decide a method to be applied in a classroom? To answer question number one, well, actually, there's no best method. Your teachers will claim to follow this a method of and use different classroom procedures, and teachers who claim to follow different method of and use the same classroom procedures. Every class is unique. Every class is different. Even you teach the same grade, for example, yeah, you teach 5 classes and they're all in the same grade. They are different because the students need the context students need interest, yeah, learning styles are different in every class. So that's why we cannot say that this method is the best method for you to apply, but then it may not be the best method in your class. Maybe it's the best method in another teacher's class. Okay, so teacher believes your reasoning, your recognition will play a crucial role in shaping and reshaping the content and character of the practice of everyday teaching. Okay, so I think that's all for today's video. It's a brief presentation. For further information, please read your module. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.